The hour of 11 a.m. having arrived, the House will come to order. Members, please take your seats. Sergeants at arms, please close the doors of the House. Prayer today will be offered by our colleague, Representative Waxman. Immediately after prayer, we will recite the pledge. Members and guests, please rise as able.
Thank you, and Shana Tova, which is the traditional Jewish greeting for a Happy New Year. This evening at sundown will be the beginning of the observations for the Jewish New Year for Jewish community members here in the Commonwealth and all over the world. The prayer that I'm going to recite today is a prayer for our country, and it is a prayer that is said by members of the Jewish faith to pray for their leaders and elected officials. O God and God of our ancestors, accept with mercy our prayer for our land and its government. Pour out your blessings on this land, on its president, judges, officers, and officials who work faithfully for the public good. Teach them from the laws of your Torah, enlighten them with the rules of your justice so that peace, tranquility, happiness, and freedom will never depart from our land. And so may it be God's will that our land be a blessing for all who live on earth, and that fellowship and liberty will dwell between all nations. Establish soon the vision of your prophet. Nation will not raise a sword against nation, and they will no longer learn war. And as it is said, for all of them will know me, from the smallest to the greatest. Amen.
I pledge allegiance Sergeant at Arms will open the doors of the House. Colleagues, please take your seats. We have some special guests here. Without objection, the approval of the Journal of Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 will be postponed until printed. If you can take your seats. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Our colleagues that serve as the co-chairs for the Pennsylvania House Taiwan Caucus, Representative Schusterman from Chester County, Representative O'Mara from Delaware County, and Representative Rowe from Union County have some honored guests joining us on the floor of the House this morning. We are so excited to have in our presence, for the very first time, seated at the left of the Speaker's rostrum, Ambassador Lee Chu-Cheon. He was appointed as the Director General of TICO in New York in July. It's his very first visit to our capital. Joining him this morning, we're glad to welcome back Mr. Lee O. Fuyan, the Political Division Director, and to also welcome back Ms. Peggy Wu P. Che, the Political Division Officer. Colleagues, let's greet these guests. Thank you for being here, Ambassador. Also seated to the left of the speaker's rostrum, our colleague that serves York, Representative Hill Evans, has a special guest. Her legislative district office intern is here. Please stand, Ashley Blackwell. Ashley is a part of the competitive robotics club back home. She's recently graduated Gettysburg College, where she studied political science and globalization studies. Ashley, congratulations and welcome to the state capitol. Are there requests for leaves of absence? The chair recognizes the majority whip, who indicates there are none. The chair recognizes the minority whip, who indicates there are none. The chair is about to take the master roll call. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? Clerk will record the vote. 202 members having voted on the master roll call. A quorum is present. The chair recognizes the majority leader, who calls up House Resolution 516, printer's number 3590 on page 7 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read a summary of the resolution.
A resolution recognizing October 10th, 2024 as National Day of the Republic of China, Taiwan in Pennsylvania, introduced by Representative Schusterman.
The House will come to order. On that question of whether the House will agree to the resolution, the chair recognizes the maker of the resolution, the gentlelady from Chester, Representative Schusterman.
Thank you, Speaker McClinton. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and Taiwan have enjoyed an enduring and mutually beneficial partnership that facilitates economic, cultural, and people-to-people exchanges. During 2023, Pennsylvania imported $1.25 billion in goods from Taiwan and exported $522 million to Taiwan. Today, the House Resolution 516 recognizes October 10th, 2024 as National Day of the Republic of China, Taiwan in Pennsylvania. This annual holiday is recognized in Taiwan and abroad as a celebration of its achievements in building a better society and strengthening its freedom, democracy, global competitiveness, and economic stability, while continuing to preserve cross-strait peace and stability. In this spirit, I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this resolution. Thank you.
Chair thanks the maker of the resolution. Those in favor of the resolution will be voting aye. Those opposed will be voting no. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? Clerk will record the vote on the resolution. The ayes are 201, the nays are 1. The resolution's adopted. The House will come to order. Colleagues, we have a few special guests here from Allegheny County. We are so excited this morning to welcome from Allegheny County the First Lady of the 32nd Legislative District, Michelle McAndrew. Please stand, Michelle. She's joined also by her sister, Christine, and her niece, Julia. On behalf of all of us, welcome. We're so glad to have you. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lackawanna County for a committee announcement. Representative Mullins.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Appropriations Committee will meet immediately upon the break in the Majority Caucus Room. Appropriations meeting immediately upon the break. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. There will be an immediate meeting of the House Appropriations Committee. The desk in the House will be at ease for the immediate meeting of the Committee on Appropriations. House will come to order. The chair referred the following bills, which the clerk will now read.
Referrals, October 1st, 2024. House Bill 2613, Education. House Bill 2612, House Resolution 549, both to Finance. House Bill 2611 to Health. And House Resolution 548 to Veterans Affairs and Emergency Preparedness. Referrals, October 2nd, 2024. Senate Bill 153, Agricultural Rural Affairs. Senate Bill 155, Senate Bill 1237, both to Consumer Protection, Technology, and Utilities. Senate Bill 1317, Judiciary. Senate Bill 1319, Professional Licensure. And House Bill 2614 to Transportation.
Chairs in receipt of the following reports, which the clerk will now read.
An annual report pursuant to Act 25 of 1983 from the Pennsylvania Office of Consumer Advocate regarding the budget request for fiscal year 2025 through 2026.
Chairs in receipt of actuarial notes from the Independent Fiscal Office regarding the following, which the clerk will now read.
House Bill 1379, printer's number 1539, as amended by Amendment A05678. House Bill 1379, printer's number 1539, as amended by Amendment A05727.
Chair recognizes Representative Harris, Chair of the Committee on Appropriations, who reports the following bills. House Bill 1077, re-reported as committed. Will the House agree the report is agreed to? House Bill 2189, re-reported as committed. Will the House agree the report? It's agreed to. The chair recognizes Representative Samuelson, Chair of the Committee on Finance, who reports the following bill. Senate Bill 1056, reported as amended. Will the House agree the bill is agreed to? The chair recognizes Representative Samuelson, Chair of the Committee on Finance, who reports the following resolution. H.R. 549, reported as amended. Will the House agree to the report? It is agreed to. The chair recognizes Representative Burns, Chair of the Committee on Professional Licensure, who reports the following bills. House Bill 2610, reported as committed. Will the House agree the bill is agreed to? Senate Bill 142, reported as committed. Will the House agree the bill is agreed to? Senate Bill 1255, reported as committed. Will the House agree the bill? It is agreed to. The chair recognizes Representative Frankel, Chair of the Committee on Health, who reports the following bills. House Bill 2094, reported as committed. Will the House agree the bill is agreed to? House Bill 2549, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? It is agreed to. Senate Bill 840, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? It is agreed to. Senate Bill 1080, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? It is agreed to. The chair recognizes Representative Frankel, Chair of the Committee on Health, who reports the following resolutions. H.R. 434, reported as committed. Will the House agree the report is agreed to? H.R. 479, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the report? It's agreed to. H.R. 500, reported as committed. Will the House agree the report is agreed to? H.R. 503, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the report? It's agreed to. H.R. 514, reported as committed. Will the House agree the report? It's agreed to. H.R. 523, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the report? It's agreed to. H.R. 524, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the report? It's agreed to. H.R. 536, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the report? It's agreed to. H.R. 538, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the report? It's agreed to. H.R. 543, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the report? It is agreed to. The chair recognizes Representative Solomon, Chair of the Committee on Veterans Affairs and Emergency Preparedness, who reports the following bill. House Bill 1541, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? It is agreed to. House Bill 1571, reported as amended. Will the House agree to the bill? It's agreed to. Senate Bill 144, reported as amended. Will the House agree to the bill? It's agreed to. The chair recognizes Representative Warren, Chair of the Committee on Human Services, who reports the following bill. House Bill 2533, reported as amended. Will the House agree to the bill? It is agreed to. The chair recognizes the Majority Leader, who calls up House Resolution 323, printer's number 2610, on page 5 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read a summary of the resolution.
A resolution designating the month of August 2024 as Civic Health Month in Pennsylvania, introduced by Representative Solomon.
Will the House agree to the resolution? Those in favor of the resolution will, chair recognizes the gentleman from Lancaster on whether the House will agree to the resolution. Representative Cutler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me start by saying I agree that we should have as much civic engagement as possible. I think that there are opportunities, Madam Speaker, to engage people in that process. However, I think that our healthcare workers are already overburdened. Their biggest issue that many of them have is complying with government regulations. And I understand that this is merely a resolution that makes the suggestion that this activity occur. But Madam Speaker, I personally would prefer if our healthcare workers were focused on providing care to those who are in need, those who are sick, and those who are impacted with a variety of health concerns, rather than complying with another governmental mandate. Additionally, Madam Speaker, I think it's worth noting, in this world, we already ask them to do a lot. Many times in talking to physicians, a 15-minute appointment could result in 15 minutes to 30 minutes of paperwork and follow-up and phone calls after that. I don't believe that we should be adding to that burden because ultimately it takes away from patient care. Too many times government tries to move into those areas, quite frankly, that aren't their expertise. We saw it recently with this administration when the Supreme Court questioned some motor voter changes regarding vehicle registration, which ultimately called someone's vote into question. I think, Madam Speaker, the administration's focus and our focus as public servants would be better served by telling people about the dangers of double voting, as we highlighted yesterday. That, by the way, is a felony that will cause disenfranchisement, that could result in the loss of voting rights. And we just recently had a conviction in Montgomery County. If we're going to use our time and our resources to increase engagement, I think that we should also increase the educational components that are before us. When you have that opportunity to discuss about the very real impacts of a double vote and what that means, not just to that voter who was criminally prosecuted, but to an election that could have potentially been impacted. Madam Speaker, we don't have to guess the impact of one vote. We actually have a member here who only won by one vote. He won his primary by one provisional ballot. So, Madam Speaker, rather than encourage and use limited resources in this manner, I'd like healthcare workers to take care of patients and be focused on that effort. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman on that question. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Allegheny County, Representative Vinkett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a great deal of respect for the minority leader. However, I think what he just said is a misunderstanding of the health and well-being of our community. We have seen over and over and over again that the health and well-being of our communities are determined not just by what happens in the four walls of the clinic or the four walls of the hospital or the four walls of the emergency department where I practice, but also whether we have a clean environment, whether people have safe schools, whether they have high-quality education, and whether they have good jobs. And frankly, speaking as an emergency physician, this is all directly linked to whether we encourage people to make their voices heard in the democratic process, small d democratic. I view my role as a physician and as a legislator not simply to take care of patients, though that is obviously my highest calling. It is also, frankly, to make sure that my patients can advocate for everything they need in their community for their health and well-being. And I'm very proud that my fellow physicians are doing the same in a nonpartisan basis. This resolution is critically important and recognizes something that has been noted for months, if not years, in the healthcare community. It goes back to a quote from a very famous physician from the 19th century, Rudolf Virchow. He was asked to study why a typhus outbreak occurred in his community. and he directly linked it to poverty and to other social determinants of health. And he said that medicine is a social science and politics is nothing more than medicine on a larger scale. We need far more health professionals doing this work, and I urge a yes vote on this resolution.
Chair thanks the gentleman. On that question, Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Allegheny, Representative Gatos.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Look, as the previous speaker said, is that medicine is a social science. It's a science. And putting yet another mandate on hospitals, doctors, nurses, and medical professionals is unrealistic. We have health care crises here that we need to focus on health care. According to this, the information on the bill, Civic Month, we appreciate having Civic Health Month, but it's a time to showcase the link between voting and health. But it adds these additional duties onto our healthcare system, which is already overloaded. It says here, the champions of the duties of a champion will include hosting and staffing training on getting ready to vote, mail voter registration resources to members and staff, write an op-ed, support residents and students of a healthy democracy campaign to mean, co-design Civic Health Month Act, commit to ensuring that all staff have time to vote. These are all noble things that we certainly encourage, but it should not be put on our health system. It should be put on the individual organization that is doing this and have them do it outside of the hospital system, not put yet another burden on our doctors, our health systems, our hospitals that are already overburdened. So I will be a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentlelady. Those in favor of the resolution will be voting aye. Those opposed will be voting no. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? Clerk will record the vote on final passage of the resolution. The ayes are 105, the nays are 97. The resolution is adopted. The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Resolution 359, printer's number 2799 on page 5 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read a summary of the resolution.
A resolution designating the month of October 2024 as Hawk Mountain Sanctuary Bird Migration Month in Pennsylvania, introduced by Representative Barton.
Will the House agree to the resolution? On that question, the chair recognizes the maker of the resolution, the gentleman from Schuylkill, Representative Barton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Hawk Mountain Sanctuary straddles the border of Schuylkill and Berks County as one of the world's foremost conservation sites and research centers for raptors, birds of prey such as falcons, vultures, owls, hawks, and eagles. Hawk Mountain welcomes tens of thousands of people from all over the world to both educate about these majestic animals and provide an opportunity to see them as they embark on their migrations that cover thousands of miles. October is a peak migration season along the spine of the Appalachians, where wind currents help raptors save energy as they undertake their long-distance journey in southern wintering grounds. With 8 miles of trails, 2,800 acres of protected lands, and an award-winning forest stewardship program, Hawk Mountain is both an economic driver through tourism and an incredible asset to nearby communities. This year, Hawk Mountain Sanctuary is celebrating its 90th years of conservation, education, and recreation. This is a perfect time to recognize this international treasure tucked away in the 124th Legislative District. Please join me in supporting the great work done by Hawk Mountain. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and go Birds.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair always roots go Birds. Those who are in favor of the resolution will be voting aye. Those opposed will vote no. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? Clerk will record the vote on the resolution. The ayes are 201, the nays are 1. The resolution is adopted. The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Resolution 372, printers number 2854 on page 6 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read a summary of the resolution.
A resolution designating April 18, 2024 as Line Worker Appreciation Day in Pennsylvania, introduced by Representative Kephart.
Will the House agree to the resolution? On that question, the chair recognizes the maker of the resolution, the gentleman from Clearfield, Representative Kephart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I rise in support of H.R. 372, which honors our state's line workers. Regardless if it is on a weekend or holiday when there is a time of need because of a storm or bad weather, these skilled tradespeople go out of the way so we can stay warm and keep our homes and businesses powered. We can see this right now with our linemen going south to help our neighbors in southern states. These men and women ensure the reliable delivery of electricity to homes and businesses across the state. Unfortunately, being a lineman is not always safe as they handle high voltage electricity, heights, and bad weather. But because of their training and dedication, they persevere. I want to thank our state's linemen for their dedication and sacrifice, including the many in my legislative district, several of which are family and friends, for what they do daily. I ask for an affirmative vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Those in favor of the resolution will be voting aye. Those opposed will be voting no. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? Clerk will record the vote on the resolution. The ayes are 200, the nays are 2. Resolution's adopted. The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Resolution 511, printers number 3570 on page 7 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read a summary of the resolution.
A resolution designating the week of September 23rd through September 29th, 2024 as Rail Safety Week in Pennsylvania, introduced by Representative Rob Matzey.
Will the House agree to the resolution? Those in favor of the resolution will be voting aye. Those opposed will be voting no. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? Clerk will record the vote on the resolution. The ayes are 201, the nays are 1. The resolution is adopted. Chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Resolution 525, printers number 3613 on page 7 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read a summary of the resolution.
A resolution recognizing the month of September 24 as National Recovery Month in Pennsylvania, introduced by Representative Doyle Heffley.
Will the House agree to the resolution? On that question, the chair recognizes the maker of the resolution, the gentleman from Carbon, Representative Heffley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm proud to sponsor this resolution and also co-sponsored by Representative Dan Williams. This important resolution recognizes the month of September 2024 as National Recovery Month. The topic of recovery from substance use disorder should be near and dear to all of our hearts because it affects all of our communities and many of our loved ones, friends and family. It's important to mention that 4,721 Pennsylvanians died by drug overdose in 2023. And thus far this year, over 1,700 overdose deaths have been reported. And not to get lost in the numbers, but think about the individuals, the lives that were impacted by overdoses. We know that substance use disorder affects many people throughout our communities. There are 20.9 million Americans currently living in recovery from substance use disorder. These individuals are living proof that there is light at the end of the tunnel. This resolution goes to support all those living in recovery and all those working in the field of addiction and prevention. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for an affirmative vote.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Those in favor of the resolution will be voting aye. Those opposed will be voting no. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? Clerk will record the vote on the resolution. The ayes are 201, the nays are 1. The resolution is adopted. The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Resolution 527, printers number 3630 on page 8 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read a summary of the resolution.
A resolution designating the month of September 2024 as Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Month in Pennsylvania, introduced by Representative Bob Mursky.
Will the House agree to the resolution? Those in favor of the resolution will be voting aye. Those opposed will be voting no. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? Clerk will record the vote on the resolution. The ayes are 201. The nays are 1. The resolution is adopted. The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Bill 755, printers number 3215 on page 2 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read a summary of the bill.
This bill provides for portable airway clearance devices in school buildings.
Will the House agree the bill is agreed to? The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Bill 2561, printers number 3611 on page 1 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read the summary of the bill.
This bill extends the expiration of the existing temporary horse racing regulations to October 19th, 2028.
Will the House agree the bill is agreed to? The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up Senate Bill 765, printers number 0863 on page 4 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read a summary of the bill.
This bill provides good faith protection to borough officials for decision-making and provides greater autonomy to receive management services.
Will the House agree to the bill? It's agreed to. The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Bill 2536, printers number 3567 on page 2 of today's House calendar. Clerk will read a summary of the bill.
This bill provides a constitutional amendment enabling the General Assembly to provide statutory authority for local governments to establish long-time owner-occupant programs.
Will the House agree to the bill? Representative Heffley offers A05779. Will the House agree to the amendment? On that question, the chair recognizes the maker of the amendment, Representative Heffley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Amendment A05779 fixes a little bit of a problem in this legislation. The LOOP program was designed to allow local governments to provide tax abatement for their longtime homeowner occupants in areas that have experienced increases in property values due to gentrification. The goal of the program is to help provide taxpayer relief with relief on their taxpayers with relief on their property taxes. However, as this bill is currently written, it does not have the provision in it which would protect other taxpayers. You see, the money to provide the tax benefits for longtime owner occupants has to come from somewhere. My amendment prevents the local government from funding the tax abatement program by increasing overall millage rates. A similar protection is provided for taxpayers in the homestead exclusion provision of the Constitution. While I certainly understand the sponsor's intent in proposing the bill, if a local government wants to institute LOOP to help its longtime property owners, they should not do it by increasing the taxes on everyone else. Now, this amendment has been, or this proposal has been discussed before, and how this amendment fixes it. My only concern is that in the time frame that this amendment will be implemented, and the time frame that this constitutional amendment will be implemented, it will not allow for the vote coming up in the May primary because we haven't reached a 90-day window. I'm disappointed that this bill was not pulled up in the time frame that it could have been voted two times out of both the House and the Senate, consecutive sessions, to go to the voters in May. If this measure had been taken up by the majority leader earlier this session, as my amendments would have done on other bills.
The gentleman is out of order. The comments are on A05779. Will the House agree to the amendment? Is the gentleman concluding his remarks at this time, or will you stay on A05779?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My amendment is good legislation and will help all the property owners, long-term owners of the property, and new members moving into that community with the issue of property taxes. And I would ask for an affirmative vote on this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On that question, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Northampton, the Majority Chair of Finance, Representative Samuelson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The underlying bill is a constitutional amendment to allow third to eighth class counties to have long-term owner-occupied housing incentives on property taxes. And that constitutional amendment, should it pass in multiple legislative sessions, would require enabling legislation before the General Assembly. The gentleman from Carbon County puts forward some guidelines for the local taxing authorities. Should this constitutional amendment advance, it might be more appropriate to put those kind of guidelines in the enabling legislation rather than in the state constitution. But for purposes of today's consideration of this bill, I would urge my colleagues to vote yes on Amendment 5779.
Chair thanks the gentleman. On that question, chair recognizes Representative Cutler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the good gentleman's amendment seeks to amend a proposed constitutional amendment. And I think it is an important topic because the gentleman from Carbon County has been trying to get a vote on this proposal for some time. But unfortunately, I think we as members have to recognize what in fact our Constitution says regarding constitutional amendments, of which his amendment, if successful, and as encouraged by the majority chairman of the Finance Committee for an affirmative vote, would be included in this process. The truth is, the requirement for a constitutional amendment is successive passing in 2 consecutive sessions. And this is the important part, Madam Speaker. Article 11, Section 1 has to be passed by both chambers prior to mid-July so that it can properly be advertised in all of our counties prior to the general election. That was clearly outlined in the Kramer case from 1992 for the first passage. Unfortunately, we missed the 90 days before the general election, so it would be ineffective. And while I admire the effort, and I will certainly be voting because I believe the good gentleman raises a good policy point, unfortunately, this bill and the with or without the amendment will be too little too late and is more likely to be viewed as symbolic because we will miss the advertising requirements. So even if we're successful on final passage when we return in the next legislative day, we unfortunately will have to still go through this 2 consecutive sessions in the future. So I urge support of the gentleman's amendment for policy reasons, but have major concerns regarding the failure to follow the Constitution. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Those in favor will be voting aye. Those opposed will be voting no. Members will proceed to vote.
Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? Clerk will record the vote. On the amendment, the ayes are 202, the nays are 0. The amendment is agreed to. The bill as amended will be reprinted. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up Senate Bill 668, printer's number 1460 on page 2 of today's House calendar. The clerk will read a summary of the bill.
This bill creates a medication aid certificate for nurse aides in long-term care facilities.
Will the House agree to the bill? Representative Frankel offers Amendment 05718. Will the House agree to the amendment? On the amendment, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Allegheny County, Representative Frankel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Amendment 805718 moves the entire nurse medication aid program to the Department of Health. It clarifies that any fines apply to facilities not nurses' aides and asks the Department of Health to look for educational overlap between the Certified Medication Aid Training Program and the LPN Training Program, and it is an agreed-to amendment, so I would ask for your affirmative votes. Thank you.
The chair thanks the gentleman. Those in favor of the amendment will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? The clerk will record the vote. On the amendment, the ayes are 202, the nays are 0. The amendment is agreed to. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. The bill as amended will be reprinted. The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Bill 1077, printer's number 3694 on page 1 of Supplemental Calendar A. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. The clerk will read the title and a brief description of the bill.
This bill amends Title 66 to reauthorize Chapter 14.
The bill has been considered on 3 different days and agreed to. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? On the legislation, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Delaware County, Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, when I'm home, the #1 issue that I'm hearing about right now is how inflation is killing people's personal finances. And they ask me often, what is it the government can do to help me reduce inflation? And my answer to them is this: your government can't do anything but get out of the way because your government is causing inflation. We've already come through a period of demand push inflation where the dollars are chasing the goods that came after the pandemic. In other words, demand was far outstripped by the other way around. Our demand was far outstripping supply. We're well past that, and into a portion where our government is visiting your costs on you, and this bill is a prime example. This bill is about Chapter 14 in the Utility Code. Chapter 14 is currently a negotiated outcome between the stakeholders advocating for the low-income community, stakeholders for the industry, and stakeholders for you, the consumers. It protects them during the winter from shutoffs. It protects them when they can't pay their bills, and it sets up a structure for people at 100, 150, 200%, and 300% of the federal poverty line on a scale, a sliding scale of when you can pay back your bill. This bill escalates it to 300% of the federal poverty line and says that a utility must engage in an arrearage payment process for those people indefinitely. Indefinitely. Now, here's the dirty little secret. What that means is the utility is going to be racking up tens of millions of dollars in uncollectible debt. And when it comes time to file their next rate case, which they will do now on an annual or biannual basis, they will be passing that uncollected debt onto all of your constituents and you. So, for example, if you're a family of 4, the 300% federal poverty line is $93,000. The good news for that family is if you can't pay your bill, you could not pay your bills indefinitely. And someone else all around you will be paying it for you, which means that if you're making $45,000, you're going to be subsidizing that family, meaning this. House Bill 1077 is absolutely going to raise your electric bill and your gas bill. And because we've allowed the city of Pittsburgh to introduce water into this bill, your water bill, all of your bills are going up. Just simply make an argument if you're below $45,000 for a family of 1 or $93,000 for a family of 4 that you can't pay it this month and it's forgiven in perpetuity, or that you can't pay it next month, and do it every single month in perpetuity and visit those costs on the rest of the Commonwealth. Now, this is irresponsible legislation. The Senate has already engaged with all the stakeholders in a Democrat bill and passed it earlier this year, sent it over to the House in May of this year, where it has been languishing in committee. Those of us who work seriously on these issues have been asking for a year to be a part of the process, and we've been frozen out. That bill's a serious effort. That bill passed the Senate 42-8. That's the bill we ought to be running today. That's the bill we ought to be negotiating if we have concerns about it. That's a serious effort. This one is not. So to the people of Pennsylvania, I say this. You get your receipts today. Today you'll find out in a vote who is trying to protect your pocketbook and save you money versus visiting another cost on you. Get your receipts.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Before turning to the legislative leaders or the sponsor of the bill, the chair is seeking comments from members. Seeing none, the chair recognizes a gentleman from Beaver County and the sponsor of the legislation, Representative Matsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to ask for a yes vote on House Bill 1077. I thank the gentleman previously that spoke, and I can assure him that negotiations with the Senate have been ongoing and attempted back in March of last year and have had conversations throughout. Yes, he's right. The bill that did pass with a Democrat sponsor in the Senate and came over to here, in our minds, was deficient. It was deficient on our minds because it was deficient in the stakeholders in this building, the stakeholders outside of this building. And to be fair, current statute, last time it was negotiated, you had a Republican governor, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate. You want to talk about being shut out? Democrats were shut out the last time this bill was negotiated. So here we are today. And I appreciate the comments of the previous speaker, member of the committee, someone we rely on for his experience, his vast experience working in the utility space. But remember this, when someone gets shut off is when it goes to your rate case. You got to be shut off first. And on the question of a family of 4, they don't get free electricity. They don't have to pay upfront cash to get turned on. They don't have to pay upfront cash to get reconnected for service. And they have to enroll in a customer assistance program. And their service can't be terminated in the winter. That's what a family of four at 300% of federal poverty get in this bill, not free utilities. Also important to say, the Public Utility Commission uses gross income, not net income. So as I ask you to vote yes on House Bill 1077, think about this. It's electricity, water, and gas. And he mentioned the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority. That was put in the bill in the Senate that he asked you to vote for today. How does a person live without those things? The answer is not easily, if at all. That's the question you have to ask yourself when considering your vote today, because it is the question we address with House Bill 1077. City, suburb, country, urban, or rural, this bill touches all of our constituents. 330,000 Pennsylvanians from all across the state had their service terminated last year. All across the state, not just Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Folks in Blair County struggled with the electric bill the same as those in Philadelphia. Does it matter if you live in Greene County or the city of Pittsburgh if your gas service is terminated? It does not. No matter where you live, electricity, water, and gas. So today we vote on a 10-year reauthorization of Chapter 14, which lays the framework for utility terminations in our Commonwealth. House Bill 1077 addresses this by improving energy and water access for sick people. It makes it easier for people living paycheck to pay their bills if something in their lives goes haywire. It addresses certain fees and deposits for the lowest income Pennsylvanians, and it protects victims of domestic violence from paying for the mistakes of their abuser. Terminations are sometimes necessary. That is a fact. But the termination of a utility service should be the last resort. We want people to have utility service, and importantly, we want them to pay for that service. Let me repeat that. We want them to pay for that service. We want them to keep the lights on, and we want the utilities to be compensated for that. That's what this bill does. Electricity, water, gas, and families. That's what you're voting on. I ask for an affirmative vote on House Bill 1077. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. On the legislation, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Lancaster County and the Republican leader, Representative Cutler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have a great deal of respect for the prime sponsor of the bill, and we have worked on issues together previously. However, while I think that there was a lot of discussion about the people that the bill is supposed to be aimed at helping, it's a little short on math. And let me explain. The gentleman from Delaware County discussed the number one issue that we're all hearing as we're out with our constituents at meetings, doing town halls, or meeting them at other events. The one that I've consistently heard about is the cost of electricity. It's very real. The last 3 to 4 years, many people, myself included, have seen our electric bills double, triple, or quadruple, in large part because of the costs associated with generating that electricity and the costs associated with delivering that electricity. But the part that I think is glossed over too often in this chamber is the part that we play with bad government policies that feed into these increased rates. Mr. Speaker, the truth is, and I think the PUC acted with good intent during the pandemic, where they stopped shutoffs so that people who were told they could not work by the government would not have their utility shut off, as the good gentleman from Beaver County just outlined. However, it's also factual that as we made money and resources available for those programs, it was not fully utilized or applied for. Many times, that money went unused. And we've got a great deal of programs that people can qualify for and assistance that is provided. Some of it is local. Some of it is based through the PUC. And we fund, for example, the LIHEAP program through our own budget. It's a program that I and the good gentleman from Philadelphia, who is no longer with us, had worked on to reform, because that really goes to the people who need it the most. And in the bill that we worked on, it dealt with fraud, stealing from the people who need it the most. But let's talk about the proposed impact of this bill and what we already know happened during the pandemic, because history will repeat itself, because the data and the outcomes will be the same. These unpaid debts, as the gentleman from Delaware County outlined, on an annual basis, as they come forward and they are not collected, those unpaid debts are included as an asset of the electricity company and then subsidized and paid for by everybody else in the new base rate case that will go forward at the PUC. So those unpaid bills directly contribute to the increasing cost of electricity. We've seen the effects since the pandemic. Let's get very specific. In PGW, with these new criteria and the income levels, 70% of the customers will qualify. And the good gentleman from Delaware County outlined, but again, family of 4 up to $93,000. 30% won't. And this is the problem when a line is drawn in this way. If you are literally only a nickel or even a penny over that threshold, you are now paying perhaps one of your neighbors who is a nickel below the threshold in an increased rate. That will drive costs up and up and up. When debts are unpaid, it will be included in the rate increases in the future. I think that this will have a huge unintended consequence, no matter how well it is meant. But we cannot continue to drive up electricity prices for our residents with bad public policy. Let's be real with what those unpaid bills represent and the impact that it has on individual families. In talking with some of the other electric providers, they're talking about prices of $30, $40, $50 more as that unpaid bill is spread over those users. And when you get into a market area such as PGW, where 30%, 3 out of every 10 people, are subsidizing 7 out of 10 people, that, my friends, is not sustainable. We should vote this bill down, and we should address it as has been proposed by the Senate. And it's my understanding that bill is currently in the committee. I would love the opportunity to have that discussion. But at this time, I think there's better ways to actually help people and not indirectly increase their rates as we head into yet another series of rate increases. I will be a no vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. On the legislation, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Montgomery County and the Democratic floor leader, Representative Bradford.
Thank you, Speaker. And I want to begin by thanking the good chairman of the Consumer Protection Committee, Chairman Matzey, who has always worked in a bipartisan way. I also want to thank his colleague on the Republican side of the aisle. I admit I missed his remarks yesterday, but Chairman Marshall will be greatly missed, and the two gentlemen have always worked so well together on behalf of their constituents and on behalf of consumers. Again, I would note the tremendous work they did on rail safety earlier this session, and I want to thank them for the work that they've done to protect consumers. I would also be remiss if I didn't, on the retirement of Chairman Marshall, just admit how much on a personal level we're going to miss his graciousness, his willing to work in a bipartisan manner and work for the benefit of all Pennsylvanians. And I think this bill and this product is in keeping with the tremendous work that we've seen out of the Consumer Protection Committee. I've just heard the good minority leader make an argument at a time when people are feeling the pinch of utility bills to talk about the plight of the poor utility company. I've never heard that argument at a time where people are struggling to pay their bills, that what we need to do is squeeze the consumer a little bit more and not have the protections in place that we need to make sure that people can heat their home and not face shutoffs and the type of scenario that the good gentleman would put us in if we did not pass this bill. So with that, I want to again thank our two great chairmen for standing up for consumers, for working in a bipartisan way, and really being the gold standard for how committee work should be done and bring a bill in front of us that protects consumers, that stands up for the consumer over the big utility companies. Thank you so much.
The question recurs, shall the bill pass finally? Agreeable to the provisions of the Constitution, the yeas and the nays will now be taken. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? Clerk will record the vote on the final passage of the bill. The yeas are 111, the nays are 91. The majority required by the Constitution having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes finally, and the clerk will present the same to the Senate for concurrence. The chair recognizes the majority leader who calls up House Bill 2189, printers number 3697, on page 1 of supplemental calendar A. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. The clerk will read the title and a brief description of the bill.
This bill amends the Underground Utility Line Protection Law to reauthorize Pennsylvania One Call.
This bill has been considered on 3 different days and agreed to. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? On the legislation, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Beaver County and the prime sponsor of the legislation, Representative Matsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the benefit of the chamber, this is the last time I'll be speaking today. I rise to ask you for a yes vote on House Bill 2189, which reauthorizes the Pennsylvania one-call system for 7 more years. Just like the previous bill that needs reauthorization, these are 2 pieces of legislation we have been working on, talking to a variety of stakeholders inside and outside the building, as well as the Senate. And just as the previous bill had a Senate version, the House version that we're about to proceed on also is very similar to the Senate bill that was actually voted on and sent over to us yesterday. Our hope is there are just a couple of things that we have not yet necessarily agreed on, very minor in my belief, and I believe we can get this across the finish line sooner rather than later, hopefully when we come back. But the PA One Call system is call 811 before you dig. And we all know of its importance, especially if you've had any issues or incidents in your particular district. As I said, the Senate voted out their version yesterday, and it's imperative that we get this version over to them today so we can continue dialogue in the goal of finding agreement. We only have so many days of session left. We get that. That's the calendar. That's where we are. We're in a deadline town. My bill makes changes to the existing law, several of which were requested by the system themselves and others from the Public Utility Commission, EAP, and other stakeholders. My bill and the Senate bill are not that far apart, as I said, and I believe we can come to a quick resolution to achieve reauthorization. Today's a vital step in that process, and I urge a yes vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Agreeable to the provisions of the Constitution, the yeas and the nays will now be taken. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? The clerk will record the vote on the final passage of the bill. The yeas are 120, the nays are 82. The majority required by the Constitution having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes finally, and the clerk will present the same to the Senate for concurrence. For the information of the members, the House Archives is hosting its annual Archives Day today in the East Wing Rotunda from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. Staff from the Archives will be on hand to show unique objects from the House's history and answer questions on the methods they use to preserve the records of the House and its members. For the information of the members, while there will be Rule 17 speeches and housekeeping, there will be no further votes. The chair is in receipt of a report from the Committee on the Committees, which the clerk will read.
David DeLoso is appointed Secretary of the Transportation Committee. The Committee on Committees elected the following. David Matson and Melissa Schusterman are elected to the Subcommittee on Transportation and Safety. David Matson is elected to the Subcommittee on Aviation. David DeLoso is elected to the Subcommittee on Railroads. David DeLoso is elected to the Subcommittee on Ports. Respectfully submitted, Carol Hill Evans, Chairwoman, Committee on Committees.
The chair recognizes Representative Kulik, chair of the Committee on Games and Fisheries, who reports the following bills. House Bill 2531, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. House Bill 1858, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. House Bill 1894, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. House Bill 2583, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. House Bill 2608, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. Senate Bill 698, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. Senate Bill 67, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. The chair recognizes Representative Kulik, chair of the Committee on Game and Fisheries, who reports the following resolution. House Resolution 539, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the report? Agreed to. The chair recognizes Representative Briggs, chair of the Committee on Judiciary, who reports the following bills. House Bill 977, reported as amended. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. House Bill 2525, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. Senate Bill 169, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. Senate Bill 170, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. Senate Bill 267, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. Senate Bill 1118, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. Senate Bill 1213, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. Senate Bill 1228, reported as committed. Will the House agree to the bill? Agreed to. The Majority Leader moves that the following bills be recommitted to the Committee on Appropriations. House Bill 755, House Bill 2536, House Bill 2561, Senate Bill 668, Senate Bill 765. The Majority Leader moves that the following bills be removed from the tabled calendar and placed on the active calendar. House Bill 1541, House Bill 1571, House Bill 1994, House Bill 2412, House Bill 2610, Senate Bill 144, Senate Bill 169, Senate Bill 170, Senate Bill 801, Senate Bill 840, Senate Bill 1051, Senate Bill 1080, Senate Bill 1118, Senate Bill 1213, and Senate Bill 1241. The House will come to order. Members, please take your seats. Please clear the aisle and take all conversations to the rear of the House or out of the chamber. Sergeant at Arms will clear the aisles. Pursuant to House Rule 17, the chair recognizes Representative Marla Brown for remarks regarding Chuck Tanner Day. The chair recognizes Representative Borowitz regarding the day of prayer and fasting.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Resolution 537, designating October 12, 2024 as a day of prayer and fasting in Pennsylvania. Whereas the House of Representatives of Pennsylvania, the seat of a nation, calls for a day of prayer and fasting in the Commonwealth on October 12, 2024. And whereas in her inception in 1776, America was birthed by the hand and grace of Almighty God. And whereas the Continental Congress 15 times during the Revolutionary War called for days of prayer and fasting to come before the Lord, humble ourselves, repent, and turn from our wicked ways. And whereas from that came a nation under God that has been blessed because God has been our Lord. And whereas sin is a reproach to our land, and righteousness exalteth a nation. And whereas now, almost 250 years later, we have lost sight of Jesus Christ and his holy word, the foundation of freedom. And whereas now we face a great unseen war of good versus evil that has caused a silent encroachment of our freedoms, but the same God that delivered us then can deliver us again. Therefore, be it resolved that the House of Representatives designates October 12, 2024 as a day of prayer and fasting in Pennsylvania, and recommend to the other states to repent of our sins on this day for the killing of our unborn children, the destruction of the family instituted by God, and the removal of God and prayer from our nation. And be it further resolved that on the Day of Atonement, October 12th, 2024, in the year of our Lord, that liberty might be proclaimed throughout all the land, once again, in this Commonwealth and in these great United States of America. And be it further resolved that by God's grace, we will continue to be the shining city on a hill for posterity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The chair is in receipt of a motion by the gentlelady, Representative Curry, that the House now adjourn until Monday, October 7th, 2024 at 12 noon, unless sooner recalled by the Speaker. The question is on the motion. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. And the House stands adjourned until Monday, October 7th, 2024 at 12 noon, unless sooner recalled by the Speaker.